1. Hope Kallahan pressed a plain cotton handkerchief to her upper lip and shifted wearily on the hard wooden seat, bracing herself against the wall of the coach. Her bones ached. She'd have given all she owned for a pillow to cushion her backside. Never had she sat for so long on such a hard wooden bench, not even in church. The pews in Papa's house of worship were softer than this device of torture. "Are you feeling poorly, Miss Della?" The young woman sitting opposite Hope peered anxiously into the sickly face of her elderly companion.
"I'll be fine, dear. Just having some mild discomfort. Don't worry your pretty head, Miss Anne. I'll be just fine."
Della DeMarco, the young woman's escort, fanned her flushed face. The poor woman had taken ill the moment she boarded the coach, but she insisted on continuing the journey. Her charge, Miss Anne Ferry, daughter of Thomas White Ferry, U.S. Senator from Michigan, was traveling to Louisville to visit friends. Pressing back against the seat, Hope counted the tall trees lining the road. Miles of countryside rolled by, bringing her closer and closer to her new home. And a new husband. To think that a man like John Jacobs wanted her as a mail-order bride? Well, it was an answered prayer. After Papa died, Hope and her sisters Faith and June were in desperate straits. They knew Aunt Thalia couldn't afford to feed another mouth, much less 3. With no resources of their own, the girls felt they had no other choice but to find suitable mates. And since Coldwater had no likely prospects, they were forced to look elsewhere. Faith had moved to Texas to marry Nicholas Shepard, a fine, upstanding rancher. June would soon travel to Seattle to marry Eli Messenger, an understudy to the powerful evangelist Isaac Inman of the Isaac Inman Crusade. Of course, it was too soon for Hope to have heard from either Faith or June, but she hoped to very soon. She was anxious to see how each sister fared with her new husband. Ordinarily, Hope would be frightened by such a long and perilous journey undertaken without the security of her sister's companionship, but she was resigned in the knowledge that she was doing the right thing. She simply had to trust that God had ordained this marriage. Soon she would marry John, and they would live happily ever after. Would she be a good wife? One John would be proud to claim? Papa had spoiled her shamelessly, but she was perfectly capable of being a dutiful wife. She reached up to pat her ebony hair into place. If matrimony wasn't too demanding, and Medford had a decent hairdresser. Anne Ferry edged forward in her seat. Large brown eyes saved the petite blonde from being plain. "I just don't know what to do. Miss Stella shouldn't be traveling, but she insists." "Well, she's the best judge of that," Hope murmured, but she uttered a silent prayer for the woman's impediment anyway. Papa always said that folks sometimes weren't the best judges of their own resources, meaning that they depended upon themselves far too much and not enough on the Lord. "Papa." She sighed, still feeling his loss. So much had changed since his death. One moment he had been preaching a fiery lesson, and the next he was lying cold and unresponsive in the pulpit. Now she was leaving everything and everyone she knew to marry a man she didn't know. She closed her eyes, her forced enthusiasm waning. From now on, her life would be just plain dull. She'd be a tired old married woman with 3 or 4 young ones hanging on her skirts. She sighed. She knew little about this man she was about to marry. They'd become briefly acquainted through letters exchanged over a few short weeks. John's picture depicted a rather plain face, dark hair neatly trimmed and parted on one side, a handlebar mustache. She'd never cared for mustaches, but then perhaps she'd learn to like one. John looked a bit uncomfortable in the photo, as if his collar were too tight or his breeches too snug in the get-along. Sitting up, Hope opened her compact and peered at her image in the mirror. Everyone said she was beautiful, but Papa said that was the Lord's doing, not hers.